that's the first.
Sponsored by Chili's.
Imagine. Chili's. All right. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to episode 15 of the podcast. So before we introduce our guest, I do want to introduce the homie Sean, as per usual.
Yeah, I'm the co-homie for the OG monoxide.
He's the official co-homie. I love it. I'm coining that. That's amazing. But let's introduce our guest, Mr. Daniel Balto, the Carmmunity man, the MNCEC, the Evo loving. How do you want to describe yourself?
I don't know. Evo loving is maybe a bridge too far. There's certainly a love-hate relationship there. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just an average car enthusiast like anyone else. You know, car spends time on jack stands, spends time broken, and then you get it back on the road and you have fun with people.
Yeah, fix, race, repeat.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, average car enthusiast. There you have it, guys. Hear you next episode. So thanks for coming, Dan. See you next time. No, but
How many times are you going to do that joke?
until I get bored of it. Because
Okay.
we only do this once a week, right? So
Yeah.
sucks to be the poor bastard that listens to 4 in a row
Yeah,
and hears the same joke.
Yeah, the chances that everybody listens to us and they pick that out.
I don't know, man. Like, I've been listening to Rogan, right? And the last, 10 episodes, he's just had this bladder problem. It's like, okay, I got to go pee. And I'm like, I'm noticing this.
It's a habit.
But, okay. Average does not describe you as much as you may think so. Yes, you do have the broken rinse repeat thing going on for you, but you've created a hell of a community over the years. So there's so many different ways we could start, but since you were the president of MNCEC and you still kind of hold a really heavy stake in that, let's just kind of start with how that came to be and what it is, I guess, for anybody that doesn't know.
Yeah. I mean, it actually morphed from a few different things, but I can draw its roots all the way back to... Yeah, probably a few days after Paul Walker died, actually, back in, 2013, I want to say?
Okay, yeah.
So at the time, I was a part of a local organization just called Incarnation Automotive, group of friends just having fun. And, Paul Walker passes away in that unfortunate accident, and within, I think, a week, we were doing that charity cruise one wintry November Sunday, I think, down at the Chanhassen Automotorplex. And so with over, 500 cars in attendance, just kind of something casual, I think we raised just north of $8,000 for Reach Out Worldwide, his, the charity he founded, right? Then fast forward maybe a couple years, we had done a few car shows, garage openers, season closers. And then by then I'd kind of noticed that, in the local car community here in Minnesota, there was a lot of situations of this group doesn't like to work with this group, and a lot of people would avoid each other's events, and there wasn't a whole cohesiveness to it, right? And I mean, traditional Minnesota passive aggressiveness taken over, right? So one also wintry day in December 2015, I believe, I invited the heads of, I think, 34 different car clubs across Minnesota to join me at, do you remember Maury's Heritage Garage?
Yeah, I forgot that thing used to exist.
Yeah, so that's where we met, and I basically gave everyone the pitch of okay, here's the name, Minnesota Car Enthusiast Club, and yes, very much the sister organization by name to the Wisconsin Car Enthusiast Club. At the end of the day, it's good marketing. But the way we wanted to run it was like a United Nations of car clubs. So basically every car club that was a part of it would have a voice and a say. And so, you have your traditional elected board of directors, and then you kind of have the heads of each of these car clubs, Minnesota Audi, Minnesota BMW, MNNI, Minnesota Mitsu's, North Star Mustang Club, a bunch of these all playing a role in this. And so that's when I think that next spring is when we held our first kickoff meet. And that was that first event at the US Bank Stadium ramp.
Okay.
When, US Bank Stadium was still under construction, I think. None of the green was there. The ramp was complete, but you can see in the pictures, they still hadn't finished all the siding on the side of the stadium yet. And we basically filled that ramp. I think capacity was 1,600, and we filled 1,350 or so.
Which is gnarly, that is kind of crazy. You didn't think back then, because I feel like nowadays you could kind of just anybody can throw on a meet, and now they're not necessarily good, but it isn't hard to get a few hundred people, but to get 1,300, especially for a newer group, that's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, well, I mean, and at that point in time, I think we were living in what some would call the golden era of Facebook. I mean, like,
True.
organic event reach back then was probably the best thing ever, right? Like, even think a couple of years before the pandemic, you had like Invade Area 51 and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like those events got like 100,000 people attending or something just because of the virality of the reshare factor. So but yeah, as you've seen over the last, I don't know, since 2015, we've done a lot of different events. Diversification was something that I really wanted to try out just to see how well could we do a rally, how well could we do a full-on like car show. You've seen different iterations of other stuff too, like Light Up the Night show is certainly I think what we're, or I should say what MNCC is probably most well known for. But even let's say the Minneapolis Mile, right, which is now kind of I don't know, I don't want to say a cornerstone of like, you know, the Minnesota summer event series, but even that had its roots way back with I think we called it Ignition when we held it at Canterbury, and then the year after that we held it at the State Fairgrounds, and that was Street Heat. And you'll see, for instance, like that year we had autocross and drifting there, right? So for the Minneapolis Mile this year, full weekend long event, and now we have autocross and drifting again in downtown Minneapolis.
That's going to be a very exciting event. I remember when you were telling me about the details of that, like it's going to become a weekend long thing. It's like, I don't know. I still remember that first Minneapolis Mile on Nicollet Avenue. That was, because that's when I was a newbie to the car community. I was like, whoa, this is a cool me. Like the auto show sucks, you know? So, because that was like always my benchmark, especially growing up in Minnesota, as you know, I always loved cars as a kid. So it's like going to the auto show, and every once in a while you'd see like a cool concept. I have this like dorky picture of I think it was like some sort of like Stingray concept, and it was really cool, like back from 2006 or 8, whatever it was. But there was nothing like that really got you excited. Like then I started playing video games, and I'm like, why aren't these stupid cars at the car show? But then going to the Nicollet Mall, you know, Light Up the Night, and seeing the stuff there, like it was gnarly. Like Lambo Dad doing donuts in an intersection, and you know, you had the entire MNES gang there. So again, that's kind of, and every block was a different car club. So that kind of speaks to that United Nations aspect that you kind of brought up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, you know, the pandemic certainly changed a lot of things in the car community here. The things that, you know, will always be, you know, this sort of effective factor across even, I mean, beyond Minnesota in the U.S., right, is heads of car clubs get older, they have kids, they have jobs, etc. And so, like, if you don't have some sort of process to pass the torch there, more than likely your car club is going to die out. And so, I mean, for instance, I don't have kids yet, certainly, but I think that's even part of why I wanted to hand the torch off with MNCC is, you know, at least with Carmmunity, I know that that's going to take more of my attention away. And also I believe that the legacy of any organization is not set in the founder necessarily, but more so how the torch is passed over time.
That makes sense. That's one thing that I kind of noticed when you were passing the torch. And that's something I'm really happy that you did, is that you're just like, oh shit, like my time is so, what's it called, strained, especially with Carmmunity. So it's like, I can't manage everything anymore. So there's you either die with the brand or you have to let somebody else take it over. Mm-hmm. So how many members are in the MNCC currently?
Yeah, like 16,000, but I think...
Nothing much. Chump change for a guy like you.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. It's one of those, like, you know, show me an event where we actually get to bring out all 16,000, you know, people in our community.
Oh,
I
fucking hope not, man. Like, listen, I'm all for car enthusiasts, but man, oh boy.
Well, get ready for the Minneapolis Mile then, because this summer we're expecting over 20,000 people.
Well, that's going to be rowdy, but a lot of spectators for that too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, I don't mind spectators, but 16, like, I guess if 16,000 quote unquote enthusiast cars, like I don't want to see a bunch of Cobalts that are rusted out with like a piece of garbage wing. But at the same time, like that's kind of what your group is for. It's like, it's just a general car enthusiast group.
Right. So do you have like a process of like filtering out, you know, kind of those potential vehicles? Yeah. Obviously, like you want the best and the brightest to represent.
I don't know about brightest.
each of these groups, right? You know, you want to show off every aspect of our car community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, are you talking digitally with regards to the Facebook group or physically with
Like
regards
physically,
to car
like at
shows?
these events, like obviously, like you're not gonna, you have your United Nations of all these groups. You want the figureheads to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do it in two ways. First and foremost, like as you guys probably saw at the mile last year, we have like the Showcase Club of the Year, which obviously with like 36 clubs, it's going to take 36 years, let's say, to like show off everyone. But, last year was the Minnesota Skyline Group. I think there was roughly like 34 on display across, our 32s, 3s, and 4s. And then this year it's going to be the Minnesota Holden Group, which obviously is made up of some amount of Pontiacs and Chevys, but there are a few, legitimate Holdens in there as well.
That's actually going to be cool to see a bunch of those guys.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing is like in the same way you kind of reference the auto show there where it's like, you walk in through the grand entrance and there's always something like right in front of you to kind of see that really sticks out. That's kind of our same goal with that. And then for the rest of the show as well, the entire layout of my event, I mean, I'll be honest, it's based on a Target store layout. At the end of the day, they know how to do foot traffic right, and there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. But here, right, it allows you to go, okay, let's go to the BMW section, and you have, North Star BMW on display. You walk 10 aisles down and you're at, the Minnesota Audi display and so on and so forth. You
do that aspect right. And with efficiency as well. That's one thing that we noticed at that Houston car meet. It was a total clusterfuck down there. Like that first one we went to where the Durango fell off the jack. Yeah, that one.
it's just it was just a parking lot. We weren't even like part of like the show aspect of it. We were in the spectator lot, but the spectator lot was literally the car show.
Yeah, it didn't flow very well. But that's kind of that's the other thing about planning a meet. Like a lot of people don't consider how are things going to flow. Like that's one of the reasons that Cars and Coffee left the Chanhassen Motorplex. In addition to it becoming too big for its own good, it didn't flow. It only had one entrance, which was also the exit. Mm-hmm. So these are and thank God Cars and Caves is still over there to have events, which we will be doing some podcasts from next week. But it's a really big problem that people don't take into consideration. So you look for these venues that will be good for an event, I suppose, right?
Absolutely. And I mean, it's even beyond consideration for like first responders and stuff like that. It's, how photogenic is the venue, right? Because at the end of the day, the way you market it is with the previous year's materials. And if you weren't able to get, good quality footage or anything like that, you really shoot yourself in the foot.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest things that hurt me with like Whiplash, for example, right? Is that I didn't have I had all my Venom stuff, but I can't use Venom logos to promote Whiplash. So
Photoshop.
Yeah, I was going to say they have a solution for that. It's Photoshop.
Yeah, Photoshop. It would have been cheaper and more time effective. And this is kind of where I always tell people where I went wrong is I just wish I threw $1,000 at vinyl, wrapped a shit ton of cars like the fall before, and you and I would probably see me having a rally currently. But that said, it's like, yeah, I'm not photoshopping that. Are you out of your mind? That'll take forever. There's some guys that could do it really well and really quick. That's not me.
I've seen you wrap cars. It would have taken you about the same time.
Anyways, Balto, back to the important person in the room.
Oh, please, you guys don't give yourselves enough credit.
Or you're just jabbing at me. I've seen you wrap cars. First of all, I am never, ever in my fucking life gonna wrap something with glitter vinyl again. I remember one time I was staying up until 3 in the fucking morning. I thought this was gonna be like a 45-minute thing, right? Yep. I had this glitter vinyl that somebody wanted. It was a VIP car. And first of all, it was more vinyl than normal because it was VIP. But I budgeted like an hour and a half max to weed it out, because sponsors and all that stuff take forever. Weeding out, for anybody that doesn't know, that means you just kind of get the little stupid things that are cut out. I don't know how to explain
the negative, like recession, I guess.
Everything's negative. Details. But that said, because of the glitter, you can't see where the lines were cut. Mm-hmm. And then I was also like, there's no way to set up lighting to be able to see those lines. So it was just pure guesswork. And it took me like about 4 or 5 hours to weed it out. So it was like, I'm sitting there, I'm not even joking, in my underwear because it's hot as hell in the house. And I've been like sitting in this one single room for however long, just trying to weed this, slamming the table a million times. So how do we get on that topic? Where was I? You will not see me weeding vinyl for that long ever again.
Don't blame me. I'm that way with chrome vinyl and carbon fiber vinyl.
Oh, I can't even imagine. I thankfully, I think I've only done chrome once, and that was my former business partner's doing to deal with that.
Good.
Yeah, you guys do stickers for your rallies, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm glad you switched.
Yeah, a great relationship with 3M ever since we started. So, I don't know if you want me to lead into that.
Yeah, tell me about the rallies from 10K Lakes to the current one coming up this season.
Yeah, I'll be honest. We started doing rallies out of necessity. So the 2019 rally, as you recall, was outdoors on 2nd Avenue. When I showed up that morning, it looked like a tornado had like run through downtown. Like porta potties were tipped over. Like all the wooden like road closed signs were in the middle of intersections. It was just a nightmare. So we held that event because obviously the show must go on, but we lost about 10 grand or so on the event.
Wait, are you talking about the Minneapolis Mile or the rally? Okay, the Minneapolis Mile.
Yeah, 2019. Okay. And so on that, we were just like, okay, well, how do we get ourselves out of this financial pickle? And so that's where we took the Paul Walker cruise that we, once upon a time held for, I think, 8 years straight or so.
And scaled it up.
Exactly. Scaled it up in some regards as far as time and length goes, but also like the cost, right? It went from like a $20 cruise to a $300 single day rally. Yep. And that's where at least, one thing we do really well is scaling, right? I mean, it's kind of just my mindset in general. And so that was when we were able to do, a fall rally, had, I think, 138 people in that event. Obviously, because of the price point, it was, very easy for most people to afford. And they saw the value in, imagine hitting up like, 4 different spots, all food included, and having a track day all within one day, and the photographers as well. So
that was a blast. So I did that first one. That's when I stole Max's GTR for a day. One, right? The red one. Yeah, that was the one. So that's the one I got pulled over on, where everybody thought I got clocked doing 150. I didn't get clocked doing 150. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Harris.
Do you need a roofer?
I could use a guy.
Well, I'm glad you agree. I saw your roof. You definitely need a roofer. And guess what? I think we know a guy. Do you remember Eric from the podcast like a million episodes ago?
Yeah, of course.
Well, guess what? He is the Twin Cities' finest contractor. All right? He'll get you taken care of because this summer, Minnesota being Minnesota, it's going to throw hail at your roof. It's going to have tornadoes throwing shingles off your roof. You know what? You don't know what's going to end up there. And he's going to get you taken care of because when you Google Solaris Roofing, you're going to see 5 big, beautiful yellow stars, and they're going to be telling you that he does not take a no when it comes to perfection. So you're going to reach out to him, either going through Google or you're going to go to solariscos.com. And let me tell you something, Sean. Are you going to reach out to him?
I'm going to reach out to him today.
Well, I'm glad you answered that way because, buddy, you need a new roof. But I did do 150, allegedly. Now, that was after said pullover. Yeah, that was an interesting one. There was so many things wrong with that pullover. So basically the guy got me for passing on the right at a stoplight in a small town because apparently we beat the shit out of the hornet's nest. I think they said they had like 50-some calls or whatever it was. I can't remember what it was. You told me it was an absurd number, and I was like, yeah, I understand why. Because like the problem with rallies, especially ones that are bang for buck like that one was, is you get a lot of people trying to prove themselves.
Absolutely.
It's like, I remember, I think a Civic like blew up on that rally, like the motor blew up or something, or an Integra or something.
Definitely a twin turbo BMW, I recall.
Yeah, yep. So it's like all these different things like happen because like, but nonetheless, there's a bunch of these like cars trying to prove themselves, and a lot of people were trying to keep up with me and Aero in the Huracan, and I was in the GTR, and even I lost sight of Aero at one point because he was risky. I remember driving on the shoulder in the dirt, dude. It was a wild event.
Oh my gosh.
Because I had Lux Detailing as my co-driver for that one, and he was literally holding on to the oh shit handle, just screaming like just that event was a blast for those reasons. But then also the fact like you had the challenges and all these aspects, like it was a cheap, fun event, you know. So
we don't say cheap, we say inexpensive.
Cheap. Yeah, cheap. It was no, but it was value packed. Let's put it that way. If you want to people are onto it. Like I remember like people were like, hey, don't say cheap, say value. I'm like, people have caught on to that now. It's yeah, but that said, $300 for a 1-day rally, you get all these like, stickers, like everything was just perfect. So
Yeah.
but no, I think he did that one very well. So I can speak to how fun of an event you could put on. And then I did year 3 of Land O'Lakes. Yeah.
Land O'Lakes. I love it.
I keep saying Land O'Lakes.
Sponsored by Land O'Lakes.
You know, that's a missed opportunity. You should have hit them up. Like, hey, y'all want to run a car event?
Right.
Just give out cream at every stop.
No, butter.
Butter, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a stick of butter just to take home.
I
But
mean, would that not be the most Minnesotan thing to do?
even better, take people's cars and turn them into like butter. So yesterday I was watching my friend Emily's story, and they literally at the Porsche Experience Center, they give you little pieces of butter that are shaped in Porsches.
What the heck?
I know, and I was just like, come on. Anyways, back to talking about you and yourself. There's too many stories about rallies I could share, especially yours.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, that third one was good. I think you and Mark called me like 4 different times late at night saying that there was something going on down at the car ramp and needed my attention. And by the time I made it down there, I was being offered, alcohol. So
Yeah, the best part about any rally is the nightlife activities. Now, some people do different things. Like, I think on Lumberjack Rally, I think we hit a strip club, half of us. So that was interesting. First experience doing that. Won't do it again.
I didn't do that. I think I had to go.
No, you weren't there. Yeah. Sean's like,
I went to go take photos with Derek.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was the first time I was in Duluth with like a nice car, and he was like, oh, there's like a bunch of really nice photo spots that we gotta go hit up.
That's another aspect of rallies that are pretty sweet, is just different places to take photos. But no, so like what we did is like we called Balto out, and we're like, you got to get to the parking ramp immediately. And then like there's like 20 guys all just shit-faced. Like we had what was it, like the Segway, or no, the hoverboard or whatever. Some dude just ate shit. I have a video of that somewhere. Just kind of like the gang that we were driving with throughout the day. One of those roads was wild though. Like if you had cup 2s, dude, like it was just grabbing you, trying to throw you off the road. But yeah, that's just the nature of those tires. But man, you're sending me down memory lane.
I know. Good. We got to go on another rally soon.
Well, that's what I've been telling people. Like, I know a couple people have already registered through this podcast. I think Dan registered, maybe someone else. But there's just something to be said. Like, the events you've put on have been a blast. So
yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination of 3 things that I do well. The first is just logistics and planning, right? Like, in a former life, I was a medic, and so a lot of those skills do carry over in that regard. Plus, for me, what's the worst case scenario that could ever happen, right? Someone gets
bankruptcy,
in a car crash, and yes, also true, also true. But and then it's also value or cheapness, whatever you want to call it. I like to think I give people a very good, bang for their buck overall. For sure. Like, even the Carmmunity Road Rally, my entire goal with that event is basically give, 90% of like a Crown Rally or like a Corsa Rally experience for like 50% the cost.
That was kind of, and that's where you and I bounced a lot of ideas around, especially in 21 and 22. Because we had a similar philosophy to rallies, like, hey, let's build the rally first, get a bang for buck, and then throw a price on. So, especially after me and Sean were looking, or Sean and I, we were looking for rallies to do this year, and there's very few that kind of filled that price point. Because like you either have to go across the country, or you have to, it's like a 6-day event or whatever. So it's like it's just tough to find the right value at the right price and everything that's packed. So that's kind of where I'm happy that you are doing the way that you do, because what's Carmmunity Corsa cost right now?
Intro is I think $1,800. So then we're going to Road America. Is that official? Yeah.
So we're going to Road America.
And then a bunch of different challenges basically between there and Chicago.
Yeah, between there and Chicago. So yeah, it's Minneapolis to like the Chicago area. Lots of challenges. Are they 3 or 4-star hotels? Probably 3, I'd imagine.
I mean, depends on what city you're in, I guess.
Yeah, true. Okay, so yeah, and then you got all these different meals and all that. So that's what I look for in a rally. Some people look for exclusivity, or they want the most expensive one, or the one that goes to the most tropical destination.
Nope.
But that's kind of where Sean and I, at least in our current tax bracket, we kind of look for bang for buck.
Yeah, and I mean, that's where my following ultimately is, whether it's MNCC or Carmmunity. It's the average enthusiast. It's not the top 1%. So, if I want to engage my community, that's the best way to do it, is make it affordable.
I think that's pretty solid. And the thing is there's only a handful of those like top 1 or 10% rallies. Those are a whole different ball game, and that's kind of where the value is different, right? Like you're talking about like $1,000 customized cigar box or something, like that's a different ball game, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah, so no, got me all riled up for that. So yeah, you said this one's in September, right?
Yes, sir.
September.
Perfect time for, fall color change. And historically, that's when we do our road rallies. And I think that's probably the sweet spot for us.
And this is Friday, Saturday, Sunday?
No, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Sunday, Monday. So are we doing Monday at Road America?
No, Sunday.
Oh, Sunday, really? Yeah, that's fucking tough. So I think I was telling Sean about this when it comes to rally planning. Getting a track like Road America is exceedingly difficult.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I feel like almost most tracks are hard, especially as we continue to see, the closures of drag strips and other tracks around the country due to
breaks my heart.
Approaching development and stuff like that. It's, when their calendar is booked full by like January, what hope is there for you to be able to plan an event, along those lines?
Yeah, I can speak to the level of difficulty when it comes to planning events. A lot of people, they used to be like, well, I can just go do this with like 10 buddies. And I'm like, sure, go fucking do it then. I don't need you, because it's a different type of an event. And we have done the buddy trip, with Mark last year, to get 10 friends and have a hoot and a half,
Yeah, well, everybody on that were like basically already signed up to go on a rally, and then you pulled the plug on it. So everybody had that weekend off already, and he did a really good job, like really getting like challenges put together and getting the route too.
Because he was taught by the best. I don't know what to tell you, Sean.
Yeah. I'm sure you had a hand in it.
No, I can't remember if I did or not, but all I know is that, my rally was the first rally those two guys did, which was Venom Rally, the first one to Colorado. That's when he got his GT 500. He literally did his break-in miles on our rally.
Whoa. I did the first rally that you ever did. I'm the OG. I've shown up.
The first Venom Rally.
Oh, okay. I showed up for Team Stance Out Rally.
Oh my God, that's a name I haven't heard in many years.
Yeah, that was a throwback. We were giving out like, what was it, like free hot dogs or whatever at Buck Hill.
That was the rally bug that bit me and made me want to do them for like the rest of my life. Like I don't think there's going to be a single year where I don't show up to a rally and show up for one of yours, because you really just know how to do them.
One of mine, eh?
Yeah.
No, I still have a picture of him flying off a drag strip.
I did not fly off the drag strip. They said I could do donuts on the drag strip.
And in the grass, evidently.
Narrow little drag strip.
Yeah, that was a fun load. So yeah, that event, not many people knew about it because we had a grand total of 11 people sign up. 9 showed. The others didn't ask for a refund. I don't know what the fuck happened to them, but
yeah.
That said, that was a little 2-day event down to Iowa. We stayed in this shoddy little hotel in the middle of the cornfields.
So perfect, though.
I don't know.
That's when you get to know
the people that showed up made it so much better.
I haven't talked to any of those people besides you. Actually, I talked to Aaron still. Yeah.
I know, because when we did that rally, I was the fastest car there, and I took a stock 2017 Dodge Challenger SRT, like just like 475 horsepower, but I was
485, but who's counting?
The fastest car there.
Yeah.
But now,
so
like,
much memory lane on this episode.
Now when I remember like all your other rallies, that would have been like mid. Like you had your customer base went significantly up, like the GT 500, the McLaren 675. Trying to think, the Mitsubishi from Piero.
That thing was a ripper, dude.
Like,
yeah, there's
you've really like upgraded in clientele, but you sit in that sweet spot that I can afford and other people can afford and enjoy.
That's where Balto comes in, because if I were to do another rally again, like if I were to actually properly invest in everything, it would be the best rally this world has ever seen. And I know it sounds a little egotistical, but I've stepped on every fucking landmine that you can imagine with Whiplash. So, yeah, to say the least, it'll come back one day, but in a different form. We'll see what happens. But my point being here, this whole rally tangent is if you don't sign up for Carmmunity course of this season, you're an idiot.
Yeah, we'll be signed. We're signed up to go.
We're signed up, yeah.
We absolutely want to do this one. Out of all the rallies that we've looked at, this is the most unique and interesting, and it's local to us. And I just feel like best bang for buck.
Yeah,
it's going to be very enjoyable. And hearing how well your other rallies have done, it's
Oh yeah, you haven't been on one of his, have you?
no. The only thing I've done is a photo cruise.
Ah, excellent. Yeah, we'll be doing that here in 2 weeks now, actually.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so tell us about that event because I saw it a little bit. I read about it like months ago. I forgot.
So, I mean, no one does any sort of cruises anymore, right? As far as, en masse, right? And no, I think it's mostly my fault, honestly, for letting like the Paul Walker cruise die. But I think there's a very unique point to it. And to me, it's really just, what's the word I'm looking for? Like bulk rates with photographers, basically, right? Because like you hire 10 photographers to shoot a cruise, you have them all at specific checkpoints along the route. And assuming everything goes well, everyone ends up with 8 to 10 photos of their car for $20. I mean, you can't really beat that.
Yeah, no, that's a bargain, and you're putting people like me out of business, unfortunately. You're the Amazon to my photography.
No,
Thanks, Bezos.
We're supposed to hire you. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm excited. That's going to be what are the dates on that again?
It is May 5th, actually. So,
okay.
Basically, we're sandwiching it on that first Saturday between Cars and Coffee and Cars and Crafts.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this way, you can bring your friends and have a full day of fun.
We're going to have a fun logistical thing with that. Actually, no, we'll figure something out. I think we should be able to make it to that one. You said it's Saturday, so that's okay. It's a later problem. That's an off-the-air problem.
Yep, there you go.
I always think like 2 or 3 weeks ahead now with this podcast, so that's the exciting thing to do here. But okay, that'll be a fun event. So we have that. You have the Minneapolis Mile. Do you have any other events, or do you want to just dive in a little bit into Carmmunity?
Oh, no. I thought the perfect segue was actually going to be from the rally to that. So, unique thing, right, with it being later in the year now is I get another, let's say 4 or 5 months to maybe build out, some sort of cool rally feature within the app.
Okay.
And maybe actually solve a lot of logistical problems that, rally hosts tend to have vis-a-vis, route planning. And yes, I know there's another app you have recommended, which works decently.
Yeah, if you could figure that one out, that'd be great. At the end of the day, kind of Google Maps is always our fallback.
Absolutely. It's a gold standard, but, when you can only set 10 checkpoints at a time, that's definitely one of your biggest limitations for putting everyone on the same, route.
Do you have, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you have any group chats set up yet or no? Is that a feature
within
yet?
the app specifically?
Yeah.
Not yet, but
at some point.
Yeah, certainly within the summer, if things go to plan, it'll be one of those things we'll knock out quick.
I feel like that'd be actually an easy way to keep people on the app too.
Oh,
yeah, because if I open up my Messenger, I have no reason to open Messenger to text someone one-on-one usually. Mm-hmm. But if I have a group chat cooking there, actually, that's not. Yeah, just pondering out loud. That's actually
Yeah, well, also with the app as a whole, right? I'm trying not to necessarily reinvent the wheel, but more so address what are the things that are continuing to still go unfixed with regards to, let's say, automotive culture? Where can we go next? And, where's the value add for the average person, like one of the three of us, let's say?
That makes sense. And are you able to share what you're currently looking at, user base wise?
Yeah.
As a whole?
It's not even that. It's for instance, for the last 10 days now, we've had basically complete server collapse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, more so on the front end than the back end, but it happened basically right when we crossed over the 30,000 download mark.
Okay,
and
gotcha.
So at our peak, we were averaging maybe 15,000 users a month. 50% user retention.
That's pretty solid metric too, right?
But it's also 0 right now, so
yeah,
it ranges on whatever time period you have.
That makes sense.
And that's part of why we're in the middle of this raise. Obviously we want to expand the footprint of the platform and just make all of the fixes that we need to. At the end of the day, between SEMA and now, we've actually had very limited ability to make changes to the app for 2 reasons. One, my developers have, their own day jobs, their own families, and their lives, right? And so I can't encroach on that too much, right? But secondly, a lot of modern app development is based on microservices, right? So like, for instance, the live map that we use with all the events and businesses and users on it, that is Mapbox, if you've ever heard of it. And so, we utilize their API and we pay, a couple $100 a month to leverage that, right? Peer-to-peer messaging, that's a microservice called Twilio.
Right.
Same exact thing, right? And so like, for instance, what we're dealing with for the majority right now is one news feed, right? So like, when you go on there, you can only share YouTube clips, create events, and upload photos. And that alone is another few $100s a month. But like, if we want to do video, which is the number one thing people have requested, that is contact us for, do stuff to us pricing, basically.
Right.
And so, we definitely don't have the budget for that yet. And that's where, this next raise really comes in handy.
That's kind of the coinky dink, for lack of a better word again.
Yeah, maybe
where you're
a
at.
feedback loop, if you will.
Yeah, it's just it's tough because once you are at a certain size, it's GG. Like everything is just like it's perfect. Kind of well, not perfect, but once you have a certain like a number of users regularly using it, then it's just that's just growth from there. Obviously with some other problems along the way, but getting to that initial jumping off point is definitely the hardest part of where you're at.
Yeah, it's actually called the inflection point. And
inflection point. There we go.
And that's a very, as you said, common issue among tech startups in general, especially social networks like what we've built here. So
you just kind of keep having these Richard Hendricks issues.
Oh, 110%. And believe me, in our private, developer messages, there is no shortage of Silicon Valley GIFs being shared.
It's like if anybody's like, first of all, if you haven't watched the show Silicon Valley, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. It's a hoot and a half and more. But it honestly, it kind of maps out a lot of the issues you've had over the years. But the thing is like you keep plucking along, so, and you keep having these developments that keep getting better and better. Like I remember that first release. Like, yeah, it wasn't the greatest, but anybody who thought like the first release is supposed to be perfect is a goober, in my opinion.
I also should say the gun was jumped on our behalf. That wasn't even our planning. So you're talking about August last year?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, so what happened is, previously every month I send out investor reports, right, to, everyone who was a part of our seed round so that they know exactly where the company is at. During August, I was able to report that our app was in the app stores officially. But
right, because there's a long process to get on the app store. So
correct.
You were kind of getting ahead, but you weren't necessarily pushing it.
Correct, because once it's there, right, you want to test it and make sure that it can stand on its own. And we were about to start doing beta testing. And so what happened is we also had finished up our launch commercial, and I had also put that on YouTube. I believe I had it unlisted, but not private.
But you weren't pushing it. Yeah.
Exactly. And so one of our stars of said commercial, the guy with the Evo, Brandon, very well known in the grid life circuit, he kind of thought that was go time. And so he started sharing that. And basically, I think, the Wednesday morning before the Minneapolis Mile last year?
Yeah.
I woke up to about 1.5 billion messages, some of them being, hey, I'm having issues with your app. Others being, hey, congrats. I didn't realize you guys were launching the app already. And trying to fight a two-front battle between that and the Minneapolis Mile was, without a doubt, the most stressful week of my life. And I think back to college when I was doing, 32 credits a semester. I think back to when I was a medic and also in med school. And I can still say without a doubt that week was just a nightmare that I am happy to be past, at least.
I'm sure that morning when you woke up, you Googled tallest building near me or tallest bridge or whatever, because especially once I found out that it wasn't like an intentional launch, I was like, oh no, because I get it. The level of stress, that's
and for me, I mean, I'm not an extrovert, right? For the most part, I would like to say I'm like an extroverted introvert, because I can be social with people, but at the end of the day, it's not what I enjoy the most.
You just want to be with your cat. I get it.
Absolutely. Cats plural, by the way.
Plural.
Excellent. But at the end of the day, it was like, I knew what I had gotten myself into, and I knew what it would take to at least get out of there. But more than that, my entire existence right now is persistence, right? Like, if you are more than willing to fail time and time again and at least take those lessons and learn from them and continue to improve. I won't say success is guaranteed, because look at where I'm at right now. Like, I continue to do that, and I still feel, no more successful than I was, let's say, a year ago. But at the end of the day, as long as you can learn from those and, continue that trend upwards, I'd like to argue there's at least an eventuality to it.
You're like a cockroach. I love it. Like, you just keep coming back, that, or what else is there at the end of the world? Like,
Twinkie.
A Twinkie. Yeah, you're like a Twinkie. There we go. That's more favorable.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, you're either a Twinkie or a cockroach. You can pick which compliment you like better.
Well, they both survive a microwave, so.
Yeah, which is just gnarly, huh? Oh my gosh. No, your existence is persistence, but since day one, I've always kind of I have seen the vision. It's just that you just need to get to that point. And the thing is when everything went horribly, horribly wrong, it only took 3 or 4 weeks, and things were getting optimized, and things were like, all right, it was go time. So you made things work. And honestly, if I were to open the app right now, like, it's really nice and it worked smooth, so the next thing is just kind of bringing those features. Like, think about how many apps over the years have been rebranded. Like, even TikTok, before it became massive, like, what was it called before that? Do you remember?
You're talking to one of the guys who does not use that platform, so I don't think I would know.
I don't know the history of TikTok either.
It's like Singly or whatever the fuck it was called. Like, everything
but
had
it's just based off of Vine, which is the original short form video content.
How about that?
Twitter bought and killed, basically.
Yeah, yep, exactly. But how about that? Imagine, dude, if Elon Musk brought back Vine, which, by the way, it's not out of the realm of possibility. He'll just wake up one morning and be like, I want Vine. Like,
I'd be amazed if it happened. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, at this point, I can't predict anything.
I think at this point it's a little bit too late. TikTok owns the majority share. He could probably grab like a little bit of it, but
if he did,
it depends if TikTok gets banned too.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, as I mentioned a few episodes ago, I hope happens, because that would supercharge my other platforms.
It would certainly help me as well, so I'm not opposed to it. But I also believe this is kind of our generation's like Red Scare. So like, I feel a little bad about it.
But you also saw everything that they threw into that bill or whatever it was. Like, they're just basically, I can't remember what it was. Like, it's not just a TikTok ban. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
Typical politician garbage when it comes to, on both sides, might I add, where they just throw stuff in. And
it's very unfortunate.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. It'll be interesting. But back to the Carmmunity aspect, there's just going to be, it just takes time. And I think especially if you're able to get a few more investors involved, or, you're buying Powerball tickets, right?
In many, many ways, yes, but not in the literal sense.
Okay, so he's a Mega Millions guy. We got that figured out.
I like to believe that the strongest hands to manage my money are my own. And that's where, I'm certainly all in on this platform. And even with that, right, we're $500,000 into the platform. And even then, we still only have about maybe a quarter of the funding as the average, tech company in the social sphere has. So, overall, have we done well with how little we have? Yes. But it also is a glaring example of, like, for instance, how bad the Midwest is with, like, just the tech sphere, right?
Yep, that's what I was going to bring up next, is that's another problem that you and I talked about a little bit at length, was Minnesotans would much rather, like you said, invest in, like, real estate or businesses, something physical, brick and mortar, whereas, when you start going out to California, it's like, oh my God, I got a tech, I got an app going, like, people are much more willing to invest out there.
Well, and it just has to do with understanding, right? People don't invest in what they don't understand. And to that effect, I get it, does it suck that Minnesota isn't as well read on a lot of that stuff? Yes. I dealt with this 12 years ago when I was in the biotech sphere trying to do a biotech startup, and just realizing it all comes down to networking, right? And that was my first example of, it doesn't matter how smart you are, it matters more about how well connected you are. And I think that's part of where I have differed with the last 6 years of my life, right? Like, MNCC, Carmmunity, all of these are kind of, they're stepping stones and they're kind of introductory pieces into getting to know people. And, to that effect, it's been great for user growth, right? I can easily say a third of our users are Minnesotan, which, good in some ways, right? But also when I go on here and look at the live map, we haven't hit the hot spots of the West Coast or Texas or, stuff like that yet. And did Grid Life help? Absolutely. They make up another third of our user base, but the majority of them are spread throughout the Rust Belt. So, we're still kind of, in the hardworking heart of America, right?
I think that's, and it just kind of comes with time and doing the right events and the right promotions with the right events, like whether that's SEMA or whatever else, because I know you've been doing a little bit of door knocking in that regard too.
Oh, yeah. Hot import nights, actually. I just had a call with Michael Munar a couple days ago, and I mean, he's fully on board for this, so it's really just a matter of us getting, the funds to, let's say, travel, bring our tent and our car out to all the different hot import nights events, and then making the app where we need it to be for the car community.
Persistence.
As well, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, I have, not opposed to working 80 hours a week. That's just my norm now.
I remember my first part-time job.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, there's 160 hours in the week. So what are you doing? With...
No. I think you're off slightly, isn't it? 144?
168.
168.
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I was off by 8.
So Balto's just sleeping half the time.
Knows.
He's like his cats, sleeping half the day. No, that's how it goes, unfortunately. I remember when I was doing Whiplash even, basically like doing 5 jobs, dude, like just wrapping everything, doing all the media production, all that, the networking, all the going to all the events and just trying to make things work. And I think very few businesses make it work unless you do all that.
Yeah.
Like if it feels easy, everybody would do it.
Oh, absolutely. And, add in all the additional requirements of like tech, right? Like I've spent this last weekend trying to teach myself React Native, which is, for instance, I've like never touched code basically beyond like CSS and HTML, which some would argue is not really code anyway. It's markup. So, I'm at that point where I don't want to have to wear every hat, but I think it's also one of the magic parts of having a startup is if you're willing to do the work and you are able to teach yourself how to do things.
Be able to jump in where you're needed, like that's kind of what an owner ends up doing over time, right? You're just able to jump in like, hey, if the floors need sweeping, guess what? I know how to pick up a broom, something like that.
Oh,
this is more
absolutely.
complex than a broom, but
no, I have some photos of like John Wayne, cleaning his own floors in his shop, you know, like that speaks very highly of owners, I think.
Yeah, I'd love to have him on here at some point. Yeah, that dude would be a riot.
Absolutely.
Oh man, but no, I think it's amazing. I had a point, but I don't know. It looks like you grabbed the mic. You want to jump on in?
I was just adjusting.
You're just adjusting? Okay.
Yeah,
we still need to have a good system where me or Sean jump in. But no, I think it's exciting. I'm curious. Have you used GPT to help you at all? Like with learning this stuff?
Yeah. I've used it for advice like a crystal ball. And that's about as far as you can get, because beyond that, it does the same searches you could do, right? Let's say Stack Overflow, to find some code snippets that you could use to, code your way out of a paper bag, so to speak.
Is it able to like help you code to a degree, like more like advanced stuff at all?
I would argue technically not. I mean, again, I don't think it's any better than an average Google search, but it kind of depends, right? I mean, what we're trying to do here is, I don't want to say it's unique, but I guess in the way that we're approaching it, it kind of is. And that's where, like, we already know the outlines of how things work, right? Like the nearby a user feature. It's like, user A, user B, GPS position 1, GPS position 2, and cross-reference them.
What about from a speed perspective? Like, even though it's doing some of the things like, is there a way to have it as like a helping hand or not really?
It's not as helpful as you would imagine there. Is it good for writing a best man toast for, someone's wedding? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But, or maybe, generating some AI art, although some of that is pretty horrific if you've actually given it some time.
I've done some AI art. Yeah, there's some scary ones. Like I did the, Midjourney one. Oh man, if you were to look through my Discord chat on that has some horrifying stuff. Like I literally stopped doing it before bed. I'm like, I don't need the nightmares from this, the nightmare fuel. But
yeah, I mean, the good news is artificial intelligence, at least for the next 20 to 30 years, will inherently be flawed because we're the ones that created
Correct.
it. And you know, I think we're okay for now.
That's where I stand. Like it's dumb enough for now. Keyword for now. Where I'm on the mental side of things where in the next 10 to 15 years it'll be an issue. Now, whether that means it's fully conscious or whatever, that's up in the air. But I do think that we will have these landmines along the way where it will be problematic. Like even with GPT-4, it's docile enough to where it's not an issue yet. But I think by the time we get to like 6 or 7, it's going to be pesky.
Yeah, it's okay. For now, I'm enjoying the apparent stories of, AI convincing developers to leave their, spouses and stuff.
Which by the way, I can't remember who said this, but like, for example, if Daniel Sloss, a great comedian, he's basically like, if me being an atheist and talking shit is enough for you to question your own faith, it wasn't really strong enough in the first place. Or like, for example, like he's single-handedly had a hand to do with a lot of people breaking up with their girlfriends. And it's like, if a single comedian can convince you to break up with your ex or you guys get in a fight, it wasn't that great of a relationship anyway. So the same thing applies to that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. Oh man, that's a great comparison. But
yeah, with Carmmunity, I mean, the game plan for the next, say, 4 months is, plan A, if we can raise the money, scale up developer efforts, implement all the changes we want to see. And by we, I mean, we sent out that survey to all of our users at the beginning of the year, and we have our top 10 list. We know what people want to see. And certainly, first and foremost is the video uploads. But even beyond that, it's, how can I recreate Facebook groups while bringing all the lessons learned from forums and throwing in like an X factor that makes this, the ideal platform to get car advice on, at least for the dedicated, 50 million enthusiasts around the world. And then also, I mean, for instance, as you've seen, events on Facebook have gotten worse. So now what can I introduce on my platform that makes it the go-to, event page for people? Is it the fact that we can implement, a ticketing system really easily where you just show up to a car event, scan a QR code, and you're good to go? Is it the fact that we can categorize them as, a cars and coffee versus a car show versus a basic, meetup? What is that X factor that truly engages the community? And certainly for our generation, I can already answer that. It's gamification, right?
Yeah.
You don't see that anywhere else across, social media, I guess, aside from like people get points, right? Or let's say you got like Reddit, right? Where you can, kind of earn respect, if you will. But I think at the end of the day, having something that maybe starts digital and becomes tangible could very well be that next thing.
There's so many different ways to go about it. Like even in my head right now, I'm just pondering, like, what if you messaged every single group in the country, like manually message, be like, hey, I will give you $20 just to put your event on this app. That's it. Like stuff like that. Like there's just so many different ways to go about it, but then you just need to retain people.
Well, that's my logic is if I have to pay them to be there, then I'm probably not doing something right.
Yeah, it's tough because like it's the chicken and the egg.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the best way to describe it, I think.
Well, and that's part of the benefit too of having a tech company is you don't scale linearly like a traditional business model. You get to basically find that inflection point and then take off like a rocket. And then there's so many ways, especially if you design it well, where there's like feedback loops, right? Where it's like, if I have users that are now recruiting businesses or events to be on the app, then that is only going to put more revenue in our pocket that we can then reinvest into marketing, which then gets more users, and voila, just created a feedback loop.
Easier said than done.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Have you thought about going on Shark Tank?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 2 things. One, the majority of their investments are in physical products, and because we're digital, I know that would rule us out pretty quickly. And secondly, I think, isn't Mark Cuban really the only one on there who's like a car enthusiast?
Robert Herjavec, or whatever the fuck his name is, he's got an AMG 1.
Okay, so
I
feel like Mr. Amazing would be down for anything.
Yeah, so
Mr. Wonderful, you mean?
Oh yeah,
the baldy that's having issues with FTX and all that fun
Kevin
stuff.
O'Leary,
Yeah, so my successes so far, at least for pitches, have actually been find who I want to go after, and either source their email from mutual connections or literally, throw darts at a dartboard and say, okay, they work for this company. Let's try firstname.lastname@domain.com. And that has gotten me more meetings with high profile people than I think any amount of networking I've ever done.
Wow.
I think the other thing here is like, obviously you need the money aspect, to develop the hell out of it. So that's problem number one. But then it's like getting the user base to grow while you have that money. So like that's the thing. So if you could find somebody that's influential at the same time, has, $500,000 or whatever, a quarter or whatever to throw at this, if you could get that special wombo combo.
Yeah.
Like,
oh no, I already have them lined up. It's just a matter of how much money do I have to throw at them. Like, I can tell you, what's his name? I think Matt from B is for Build. The price to sponsor an episode is 10 grand. Whereas like, I talked with Shmi and he was like, I'm just not promoting anything at this moment, but I'll watch from the sidelines for now and definitely help you when the time is right.
What about a partnership aspect with somebody that's like a YouTuber? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with, Alex Martinez, my, former, I don't know, frenemy, rival, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I mean, we've certainly buried the hatchet now.
The Wisconsin evil version of you.
It depends on perspective, right? Maybe I'm the evil Minnesotan version of him, right?
Well, yeah, the good and evil is subjective, so
always.
both of you see each other as that.
But, I talked with him while we were on Banging Gears in February in Vegas. And, it's, again, a time and situation sort of thing. And I think a lot of it is, what do I have that I can also offer influencers on my platform that they can't get anywhere else?
Well, the other thing is that the app is going to be, in a way, literally theirs. That's the selling point to me. It's like if you went to someone like DDE or Alex or whatever, it's like Carmmunity by whatever who, and then also have them on the front page. It's kind of like...
And certainly an equity stake in it as well.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so it's... There's so many different ways to go about it, but there's no easy way.
No. And it's a lot of, as long as you're willing to fail, you can fail again and again and again. And you can be, you can fail a million times, but as long as you get there once, that's all that matters.
You're the biggest failure I know, man.
Absolutely.
I love it. No, that's why I love telling people. I'm like, yeah, I'm the biggest failure ever. And they're just like, what? I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing. Like, because again, like you said, you just need it to work one time. Yeah, so... Yeah, I'm excited the next few months. So tell us what the next what does 2024 look like? Like once we get end of December, are we gonna have a happy Balto?
I mean, in an ideal world, yeah. I mean, in theory, by the end of this year, let's say Carmmunity takes off, I get the funding that I need, we expand our team both in the development and the sales side, marketing. We're already working on getting our race team together as well for Grid Life. So we'll probably have 3 to 4 cars with the full livery by the end of the year. But
that'd be gnarly.
The next step after, I guess what I already have lined up is, go for the globe, right? Like the US makes up a quarter of the global car enthusiast market, but that's also only 25%, right? There's another 75% to go get. So, next January, right before my birthday, is Tokyo Auto Salon. That's been a bucket list item to attend. And, I want to get out there and really learn what is Japanese, automotive culture like. How does it differ from ours? Because, one of our biggest competitors is based over in Europe, and they've had a really hard time penetrating the US market as a European company. And I think that I may run into those same challenges as we try to expand globally. So it becomes... okay, let's see if we can find the Dan Balto of Japan or the Dan Balto of Australia or, those sorts of efforts, basically. 1, so that we can scale easier. 2, because I'm only one person. And 3, I'd like to make my life at least a little easier at some point. So
you're thinking more so of like partnering with your counterparts in those countries?
I mean, I'm certainly talking with them right now about it if it comes to that. But to realize that even your competitors that, from the outside looking in, you assume they're more successful than you. But when you pull back the covers and you kind of talk heart to heart, you realize they are dealing with the exact same issues you are. And because that's the thing, is at the end of the day, we all operate in an extremely narrow niche, which means that regardless of, how well you're doing, you play by the same global economic factors as everyone else.
Is there a way to get like car enthusiasts, but not car, like, I think of a way to phrase this, spectators on the app?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I consider that basically round 2 after we get, let's say, the 50 million car enthusiasts around the world. But it becomes, how do you begin to expand your audience with regards to, you can't water down the formula too much or you lose all of your core users, right? So,
Right.
Let's say if we wanted to go after, who is the biggest brand enthusiast out there? Tesla owners, right? So if we wanted to go after, the millions of Tesla owners around the country and around the world, how would we go about doing that? What could we offer them beyond our core set of features that would be valuable to them? And
So targeting cults, basically, kind of.
yeah, well, I mean,
because they are
all
very loyal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think we all are, right? Like, even though I have 2 Mitsubishis, and while I also hate the modern brand of Mitsubishi, right? Like,
Crossovers on everything.
exactly, right?
Yeah.
Oh, don't even talk to me about the Eclipse Cross. But, it's one of those situations where we all are diehards for what we own. Some more than others, I suppose.
Yeah, I was about to say, this Volkswagen could go off a cliff. I wouldn't be all that upset.
Yeah, right. But I think it's just one of those situations where, how do you expand the business model and kind of get more mass appeal, or, do a cost benefit analysis? Does it even make sense to do that? Or are you content with managing a community of 50 million people globally? And, I guess to the extent that I do believe car culture is going to keep expanding as the OEMs introduce more autonomous vehicles, right? Because you're basically just going to, put people up against a wall and say, is your car an appliance that just gets you from point A to point B? Or do you enjoy the personalization aspect of this and everything else? People have asked me, what do you think of, electric cars with regards to car shows? And it's like, okay, well, 80% of the builds out there are, wheels, tires, and suspension. So, guess what you can do to a Tesla? Those exact same things. It's not as exciting, let's say, but at the end of the day, I don't think car shows and car events are going away anytime soon. And if anything, I believe we're actually going to see another renaissance due to 2 things. One, certainly with, the fact that big car manufacturers are going to be limited by what they're able to produce over the next decade or 2, right? But I think that we will see a lot of small companies that are doing, 100 cars a year or something like that. They're not going to be as restricted by a lot of these things. And so much like we saw like the rise of craft beer over the last decade.
Oh God,
I think
those people.
Yeah, I think, and microbreweries, right? To their benefit, right? The technology to produce beer has gotten cheaper and more efficient, and their ability to market to the masses, plus changing tastes of the masses, I think has helped that entire industry. And I think we could see the exact same thing happen here, right? You have, 3D printing that's really starting to take off. So how soon until, you could start making subcomponents of, a car and then maybe be able to just order, either a tube frame chassis or a carbon fiber monocoque or something like that, and, just build around it. Because at the end of the day, it's so small batch, you're not being restricted by, the same thing that the OEMs are.
It's going to be kind of like how Elon took a Lotus Elise and turned it into electric.
Absolutely.
People are going to start taking
example.
These new 3D printed materials, and they're going to start making their own V8 or, whatever engine combo they want to make. Like whatever car they want to build, they can make.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, we're an enthusiastic enough bunch that, we exist in our own world, right? So regardless of everything else going on, and under the assumption that they're not just going to outright ban all internal combustion vehicles or something like that, I think we'll just continue to see what history has shown, which is, imagine, 100 years ago, right, when, horses started getting replaced by the internal combustion, vehicle. I think we'll see the exact same thing happen here, and hopefully not just only the wealthy being able to own cars, I guess.
It's not going to be the wealthy, but it's going to be the people who are dedicated to horses that keep the horses. It's going to be people who are dedicated to petrol engines to keep owning them and maintain them. And that's, why people still have horses today, is because you can use them for sport, show, or maybe it's just a hobby.
Absolutely.
Fucking kill me if we get to that point. That's just, yeah. Well, here's the thing. We have a lot of brands, like especially the Germans. The Germans are crushing it in this aspect to make sure that their cars are staying fun, but also they're within these regulations, the California regulations. So it's going to be interesting, but I don't think it's not like they're going to sweep off all used cars off the road in 2035, which is kind of like that year that they're looking at. Mm-hmm. So we're gonna and first of all, it's not even financially feasible for so many people. Like, how many people are able to go get a new car right now? It's like, oh, it must be electric.
Yeah,
fuck you.
Even with like one of the cheapest cars on the market that you can buy, I think it's the Chevy Sonic. I think like brand new, those things are what, like 13 to 17 grand.
Yeah, and
that's with like no bells or whistles. It's literally just a shell of a car.
I bet it's actually the Mitsubishi Mirage.
Oh,
if I had to guess.
Actually, yeah.
So that's one of those things where it's like, I think it was like in 2018 or 19 or whatever, I Googled it. I think it's like the average age of a car on the road was like 2005 or whatever, or something along there. So it's like, think about it, there's cars that are way older than that on the road still, like the 99 Civics, still beating hard out there. So it's like, there's going to be a trickle down effect. So I don't think we're going to see all electric cars until maybe like, at the very least, the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, no, it's just crazy because I don't think you realize when you're on the road, if you actually like pay attention to every hybrid and electric car now, you'd probably be like looking at almost, from 25% of the cars on the road to maybe even like 40%. Like it's gonna, especially in like 10 years from now, that number is going to be over half. It's going to be
the shift is happening for sure, without a doubt, but it's not like it's going to be an overnight switch either. Hybrids, I have no beef with hybrids. I love hybrids. Hopefully we see more SF90s out there. By the way, we were looking at that today. My dad's like, how much is this one? And we were like, yeah, that one's 800,000. He's like, okay, yeah, no thanks. But we will see more enthusiast-based hybrids. I'm just gonna keep beating that drum. So
you know how I know we're gonna see more SF90s on the road? The 2024 Prius.
Stop.
Wait, hold on, explain that. Hold on, that went over my head. What do you mean?
Oh, have you looked at the front design to that vehicle?
Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah, and also
not stunning. Let's not over exaggerate, but it's a good looking car.
Absolutely, and it looks extremely similar to the front of the Ferrari SF90.
Yeah. So I don't know.
Can't wait to see the body kits for those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the Liberty Walk Prius from the UK was pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
No, I think there's a place for it, and I think if it's done right, I'm all for it. Like a 2080 split, like the NSX, for example, the Gen 2 NSX, or even the E-Ray Corvette. Listen, somebody's probably yelling at me right now about the E-Ray Corvette in particular because that comment section was brutal. Blow me. There's a place for it, I think. But that doesn't mean, like, for example, the GT4, you saw that pink one I posted last week, right? Like, that's a stunning car. I don't think that's going away anytime soon either. Yeah. All this rant comes down to is I think we got at least 30 more years, and then by then my heart will probably take over. Yeah. Or collapse.
And that's what I'm saying is even if Carmmunity only exists for 30 years, let's say, that's still 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, shit. I mean, the internet's only been around for 30 years or whatever. Mm-hmm. Or at least in the modern form that we kind of know it.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Okay. Well, we can still keep cooking here. What do you want to talk about? Half this podcast just been me ranting.
Oh no. I was gonna say I feel like half this podcast has been about me. So
that's what the goal. Most everybody's take away from this is like, oh, I feel like I just went on and on and on. But like, you're our guest, and this is the whole point of the show is to dive into you, and like people might not know who you are, and just talking about like your interests or what you're doing, it really shines a light on everything who you are.
People know us already. That's the thing. Like we can talk for 20% of this. The goal is to, if we were to pull up the audio on this, and we'd love to see ourselves talking maximum 40%. Whether that's a split of me or Sean or whatever, depends on our guest as well. Like for example, I know you better than Sean does, so it's like, you know, this is gonna be one of those episodes where my dumbass talks for a while, but then we're gonna get, you know, somebody on in the future, and then it's gonna be like, where's Harris? You know, so. But the ultimate goal here is we want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And the people who are listening to this ultimately are going to be the people that you share to, and they're going to be like, hey, let's get to know Balto a little better. So
yeah, no, you can basically just call me Tom from MySpace, because that's basically the goal at this point.
Yeah. So, I mean, is there anything in particular that you're just yearning to talk about?
Yeah. Let's say, you know, in another world, or maybe in 6 months, if Carmmunity's going well, we'll, I mean, on the segue from EV cars, I think
Thank God.
I've talking about the, I don't know, how long have I been talking to you about that EV swap with my Eclipse?
Oh man, I forgot about that. We had that conversation however long ago. Yeah, it's going to be a while before you can do that one, bud.
Maybe. I mean, at the end of the day, right? How expensive is it to go buy, you know, a T-boned Model S or Model 3, bring it in, rip all the components out of it, and then, you know, get some fabrication done and do an EV swap? You know, Patience Metal Fab's doing, I think, a 911 right now with some.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
I don't know. It'd be exciting, especially with like the drift setup at the mile this year. Someone just bring like, you know, a EV car to just, you know, go around drifting with.
Let's do that when you have another car.
Yeah.
Because like you don't want this car to be down for a while, right?
Yeah,
like
I'll be driving the Evo this summer. Totally works out.
Exactly. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting build. Yeah, I know other people have talked about doing EV builds, and it ain't all that it's cracked up to be, I guess, but it's possible.
Yeah.
But it ain't easy, that's for sure.
Absolutely. So let's ask this, and more so curious on your guys' answer. So if you had, let's say, a Lamborghini V10 to put into any car, like out of a Huracan, what would you put it into?
So I've actually seen somebody do this, but it was a Judd V10. They threw it into a Mark V Supra, super awesome build. But I think I'd probably put it in like I want to say like a Caterham or Caterham 7, like one of those. Just something crazy.
I'm glad we're the same level of lunatic.
Like just put it in the lightest car possible, and then just absolutely turn it into like a tire destroyer.
Excellent.
Something small or crazy. Like for whatever reason, I just thought of a Cobra, like a Factory 5 Cobra.
Would it even fit? Oh no, you make it fit.
That's what I'm saying. We're about to make it fit. Like I remember seeing that Scrap Life Garage, the go-kart Audi R8, like stuff like that. Like just something ridiculous. You know, you don't want to throw it in something like dumb, like a Supra or something, like a Mark IV. Like, oh, it's been done. What can we put in there? Like you want something like unique and original. And I'm joking, by the way. It'd be really cool to throw it in a Supra, but something that people haven't seen before. Like imagine seeing like, you know, a Judd V10 or a Huracan V10 in like a Cobra or something.
Yeah.
Or like a 65 Mustang. I don't know why I'm thinking Ford today for whatever reason. I didn't grow up a Ford guy, so this is really a strange day for me.
That's actually pretty cool because they did that with a Ferrari engine. They threw it in was it GT350 from 1969? They called it the Intimidator. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, it was the SEMA build from I
SEMA
think 2
build.
or 3 years ago. It was like a Nardo gray.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was an insane engine swap, and I don't think anybody hated it. Everyone just fell in love with it. They're like, I couldn't care less if you didn't use a original Ford crate engine. Like you threw a 458 V8, like just absolutely stunning build too.
Yeah. I wonder if Ferrari sent them a cease and desist.
That'd be hilarious. We can go down another topic, but let's at least get this out of the way. Our usual closer. So what is it? So if you have to pick one of these for the following vehicles, you have to pick one track car, one show car, and then one daily. So
Sure.
Yeah.
pick them away. Anything, and any budget whatsoever. Like we don't have to do that. Well, it has to be under $25 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Oh man, is it weird that I would almost pick the same car for all three? For
It's possible.
yeah,
It's possible, but let's keep it fresh.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I'd start for a daily. I know it's not practical, but I realize like
What kind of fucking daily is that, Balto?
because I mean, I'll put it this way, right? I never have a need to haul anything, and usually it's just me, maybe one other person, and my backpack, right?
Right.
And so I'm gonna say like Rimac Navara for my daily.
Okay, that's reasonable.
Cool factor, you can be literally anything on the road, and I don't know if anything can catch you. And you have enough range that you can at least daily it, right? You're not going on road trips regularly.
That's fine. Those are my Balkan cousins. That's fine. I'm happy with that.
Absolutely. Let's say show car. Oh man, I'm gonna say like something vintage. I want to say like a 1965 Mitsubishi Debonair.
All right, Google. Let's see what this is.
Yeah, it's basically going to be my next like show project car because it has like the vintage styling of the 50s or 60s, I want to say. It's foreign, right? No one has ever heard of it.
Yeah, clearly I'm Googling it. Yeah, it kind of looks like like a vintage Mercedes, like kind of like almost like an older Hammer.
And to be honest, I'd probably do a lowrider build on it with like full level like engraving on the sides.
Hydraulics too.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah,
yes.
no
And
bags,
if
hydraulics.
I could, like wheels too, I wouldn't go with like traditional like wire spokes. I would put like those 3-spoke like Onis or something like on it. Right? And then track car. I want to say something extremely raw. Like for instance, my Evo is great, and I know that it to its own, behest is refined to a degree. I've ridden in Chris O'Regan's 800 horsepower Evo 8, right? At Power Cruise a couple of years ago. And like that was even more raw than the Evo, and I had more fun in it. And so, by definition, I feel like I should go with something that is like the most raw experience out there. Also, how customized can I go with this?
You can go as badass as you want. We had somebody say that they would have a V10 swapped. What vehicle was it?
We're talking about Dave, right?
Yeah.
Oh, what the hell was it? It was it was like a kit car kind of thing, right?
Yeah. A kit car with a V10 swap, and then he had a truck and trailer set up because it obviously wouldn't be street legal. So
yeah, I don't know. Go wild.
You go crazy.
Yeah, okay. So, I was basically thinking something along the lines of an exoset. I've ridden in a Turbo LS exoset before. And obviously those are ideal track weapons, and you don't have to worry about safety or anything else because who's going to hit you on the track anyway, in theory.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll find a way.
But, when I see cars like that, what is it, twin VR6, like Golf or whatever, that's the type of thing that really excites me. So it's just like, what would happen if you tried to build an exoset that was an Evo 8, but it had just a 4G63 up front with a turbo on it and a 4G63 on the back, and you had it running as perfectly parallel as possible. And I don't know if that makes it worse or better than a traditional Evo, because obviously some of the appeal is the all-wheel drive and AYC system for torque vectoring, but I imagine something like that, right? Basically one step above motorcycle or super bike, but a few steps below, a traditional car with all the safety systems.
That sounds like a SpaceX build to me. That, yeah, that sounds like one of those where you have to have a blank check.
Yeah, basically.
For sure.
I mean, the plus side is the engines are cheap, right? I mean, otherwise I'll just default to it and say, okay, twin turbo LS exoset. Make it easy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I like it. That'd be a sweet setup. That's a nice garage. I like the Rimac in there. That was that'd be a solid daily.
Yeah.
How many seats does the Rimac have?
2.
Okay. Yep. It's not like the Koenigsegg. What is it? I always say Jesco, but it's not the Jesco.
Chimera.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That Chimera, has the 4 seats. That would be a great daily.
How about the amount of space that has, by the way, for the rear passengers, by the way? It's actually really impressive, but it still has only 2 doors. But it's once you're in the back, it has so much space.
The length of the 2 doors, though, is the equivalent of if it was a 4-door, though. Those doors are long.
Yeah, it's as big as a stop sign. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I would say I would also go with a McLaren Speedtail, because I've seen a few things with those.
The
and
seating positions right in the middle.
I love
How cool.
center seat position cars. I've never sat in one, but like they just fascinate me for so many reasons.
Yeah, that'd be trippy.
Right?
Yeah, it's just different because like we're so used to left side. I don't know, but yeah, man, we touched on a lot of different things today. That was a lot of different things. Any final things that you kind of want to, just throw out there?
Yeah. Anyone listening, download the app, and if you hate it or if you like it, send me a DM.
Yeah, I mean, it would be awesome to see that come to get to its inflection point because, like, I was even telling my dad today, like, about our off the air things, basically, how involved I am with the app, and it's like I would hate to be the person that. This is like your 1999 of Amazon. That's kind of how I see it. So it's like I'd hate to be the person looking back 5 or 10 years from now and being like, "Oh, I wish I invested in that." Like that's kind of my mindset. It's like if you can, why not? And if you do, who cares? Like I don't know. Either way, a lot of exciting things for you this season, from the MNCEC events to the Carmmunity rally to the app growing. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Especially now that the Evos up and running.
Yeah, no. Do you want to tell people what the fuck happened with that real quick? Like,
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like most Evos, they spin rod bearings, and my last one happened about this time last. No. Yeah, actually, it was a month from now last year. Anyway, it was right after the auto show. Nothing I could really do there. When you have money and you have a tech company, you rather put your money into the tech company instead of your car, right? So, the car made it to the Minneapolis Mile last year. It was at Hot Import Nights, but every single event I was doing the walk of shame, getting the car pushed in, right? But, we were invited to be on Banging Gears, that TV show that'll be streaming later this summer, along with a lot of, big names like Rob Dahm and Alex Martinez, and certainly a lot of pro drifters. And basically I called in every single favor I think I've ever earned. Also shout out to Mark Mulstein, who helped me, get the engine and everything else. But basically in a 3-week period went from completely, dead car just sitting in storage to engine out, new engine in, new wheels, new tires, new Fortunato suspension, and even like got it dialed in, and then did my break in miles in Vegas, the day before, my shoot. So yeah, it was a situation of like, 20 days to air and just getting like everything done in that time. And
that's like one of the perfect like car show scenario. Like, we got to get the car done before X amount of time.
And, when we find out what episode we're in and when it's going to, air, I think that's when we're going to take all the footage that we got and actually do like a, behind the build video series and kind of show people like, this is everything that went into us being able just to make it out there.
Yeah, we'll have to have you back on later this summer because I have a feeling that the next few months are going to get really, really rowdy for you. And I'd love for you to look at this episode 5-10 years from now. I'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember how I was feeling back then.
Oh, dude, 5-10 months from now even should be sufficient.
Yeah, you're just going to be like, you're just going to be like, give me a joint, man. Let me just get high as a kite. Let me just chill for a minute.
Yeah. I mean, basically, Joe Rogan's show, right?
Well, not on this. No. We run a tight ship here.
Excellent.
Yeah, 420 was a couple days ago.
Yeah, how about that? Yeah, that was
great point.
Speaking of 420, dude, so I'm in a Viper group, right? I don't know. You might be in the same one, Sean, but
Viper Club of America.
I don't know if it was that one or not, but the Viper owners went fucking bananas on 420. So somebody posted I think a joke or whatever, and then somebody sold or put up a legit ad for a Viper, right? So it was like a Viper ACR Extreme in all white for like 220. And this dude had phone calls up the ass because like it was so cheaply priced. Yeah. So if for anybody that keeps up with the Vipers, single color, like no stripe Vipers, they just go for an absurd amount. So especially if they're extremes and all this other stuff. So anyways, that guy basically had a very good day, like basically had like a bidding war, but then everybody else started posting their Vipers for like 69, 420 or whatever. And just, like the entire day was just a bunch of Vipers being listed as a joke for 500K plus, and it's still going. So that was 420 in the car world. Something went wild with those guys, but
Yeah, I think I'm in a different group, and I think they didn't know it was satire, and so they're like, "Oh, like we're seeing all these Vipers, selling for X amount of dollars, and so we know like what we have, and
Yep.
like increase the price, guys." Like, and so then you just see like people posting, these Vipers that are $40,000 to $50,000, and now they're listing them for $100,000. They doubled the price on their cars, and I'm like,
yep, in that same day. Yep.
this is not concurrent with how the market is right now. It's not like I mean, it is a seller's market right now because it's summer. People want new cars to drive in the summer, but it's not gonna increase the price of your car by 200%.
Yeah, I think I feel like that, like when things happen as a joke like that, I feel like sometimes it actually does have an effect.
Oh, yeah.
So I almost wonder if the prices are going to be like 5 to 10% higher on those like special cars. That remains to be seen, but
Yeah, I mean, the market is gonna be dumb. I see it all the time in these for sale groups. They're delusional, I know what I have. Like, don't lowball, like no low balls.
well, the other reason I'm like, oh, this might go up a little bit is like the Ford GT, like the new ones, they basically doubled overnight. Like, I don't know if anybody remembers that, but that was like freaking wild. I can't remember what caused it, but
Just the exclusive. Oh, it's because of Ford.
the contract, yeah.
Ford had everybody sign a contract. I think it was like for 5 years. They weren't able to sell them, otherwise
Yeah,
the
that's what it
warranty
was.
would get voided. And that's the same thing that
No,
Chevy.
you would get sued. Like John Cena's big ass got sued. You
yeah,
remember that?
he's like,
yeah.
they can't sue me. Yeah, they're gonna sue you.
Yeah, that's what it was. Like, you're not allowed to sell this. So, oh, man, the car world is such a weird world. And I'm glad that we're able to hopefully see that develop on Carmmunity. So,
Appreciate
just
it.
going to bring it back. So, we can kind of use that as a document. Maybe one day you'll have like a Instagram feature like, hey, here's this from 5 years ago, like a memories feature.
Oh, that's child's play.
That's down the line, though.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, Daniel, we are very happy to have had you on. I think a lot of people will hopefully benefit from this and see that we're all struggling deep down inside.
Yeah. I mean, story of a car enthusiast, right?
Yeah, so other than that, thanks for coming on, and thanks for being the co-homie, Sean.
Yeah, thank you for being the homie, Harris.
Yeah, and see you guys next time. See you next week. All right, what do we want to talk about? Oh, still recording. Hold on.